Hello, everyone. This is your host, Debra Poneman, and I'd like to welcome you to our call with today's guest, Dr. Sue Morter. International speaker, master of bioenergetic medicine, and quantum field visionary, Dr. Sue Morter teaches the embodiment of high-frequency energy patterns to activate full human potential. Through her energy code seminars and retreats and her video series, she illuminates the relationships of quantum thought, energy medicine, and healing through the elevation of human consciousness and life mastery. Dr. Sue is internationally published, is seen in many documentary films, and serves on professional licensing and human service boards globally. She has received many outstanding achievement awards in the field of transformational leadership and is the founder and visionary of the Morter Institute and Soulful Science Productions. And today you're going to discover the different vibrational frequencies and how they relate to awakening. Also, how we create energy blockages and techniques to remove these blockages from your energy flow. So, Dr. Sue, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the call.
Well, it is my pleasure, my great pleasure to be here always in this conversation, and particularly with you, Deborah. It is always such a treat to talk with you and to dig in deeply like we get to, and I can't wait to see where we go today.
Yes, and I'm so excited to hear about these energy codes because, do you know, I am not familiar with these energy codes. And this is so, every time I interview you, every time I see you, meet you, hear you speak, I'm always blown away. So I'm ready to be blown away again. And what I'd love for you to do, and that's the truth, you know, and what I'd love for you to do is to, before I dive into some of my questions, share a little bit about your background with everyone and maybe tell them what you believe to be the major turning points that allowed you to manifest your current level of really tremendous success and so much contribution to people's lives. How did it all come about?
Wow, you know, it's been a lifelong journey, as it has been for all of us, right? And there's a very large part of the story that really begins how I grew up. I grew up in a natural health care environment where we were taught that the body has the ability to heal itself and that everything is supposed to work for you in your favor naturally, and that the body is supposed to be self-healing and self-regulating, and that life was the same, that things are supposed to work in your favor, and that there is an abundant universe here, and that all we have to do is learn how to participate in it by saying yes to ourselves. So the application of that is another story, but I certainly grew up with that conversation. Like, I sat around the dinner table, and our dinner table conversation was about quantum science and possibility. And as you can imagine, in junior high and high school, that which seemed rather boring to me at the time has turned out to be something that's been just profound. It's been wonderful in my life to have that etched at the cellular level in my being, really. But as I grew up, went to college, graduated, opened my practice, and started treating people as a doctor, you know, taking on that responsibility for people to help them with their health care and to move in this way that would allow for some openings for others, I started to really be stressed out. I started to really realize that knowing something and being able to let go and being able to let it take its course at its right time and to trust that unfoldment is another story. And I started getting really stressed in a lot of ways often, and found myself really wanting to know what I could do to relieve my own stress. I started getting migraine headaches and was unable to go to work for at least, I would miss like a day of work a week for about several weeks, a couple of months, and then that turned into a couple of more months. And at some point in time, I got to the place where I knew that there was something that I needed to do differently. I could help other people with their migraine headaches when I could get to work, but when I was unable to, I was extremely disabled, just in bed, had to have the lights out, the whole bit, and realized that there was something that I was sharing with others that I wasn't able to implement for myself. And so I started listening really closely when I spoke to others. When they would come in with their health conditions, I found myself listening with another ear and noticed that what was happening was people were showing up in front of me that were actually providing the answers for me. And so at the same time that I was able to help them, I started listening and taking some of my own advice. And along about that time, I was attracted very strongly into the idea of meditation. I was very interested in the Eastern culture and how they approached health and how they approached life. And so I was drawn to meditation retreats, and I went to just a few of them right away, beginning to have amazing experiences in meditation. And in the midst of that, I found myself, and I think this is where it will be significant for our entire conversation. For most people, we try to do the best that we can. We try to follow the rules. We try to engage in the ways that people have taught us to do, and to do everything to our very highest point of possibility. And I found myself trying to learn to meditate the same way. You know, I would kind of try to do it the right way, and I would stress myself out over trying to learn how to meditate appropriately. And it's kind of an oxymoron there, to try to learn how to meditate, to try desperately to learn how to meditate. And I finally recognized that at some point I'm just going to have to drop it, to lay it down, and just let this happen the way that it's supposed to happen. And the teacher of the meditation retreats that I was attending noticed that I was trying really hard, showing up, doing everything that I was asked to do. And she kind of pulled me in very quickly and made a personal assistant kind of role out of me, and gave me a list of things to do that it was impossible to do in the amount of time that she gave me to do them. And that was perfect, because in all of my perfectionism and my attempts to do the right thing in all the right ways, finding that it was impossible to do, I finally had to get to this place of just complete frustration where I was exhausted. I had been trying to fulfill this to-do list day and night for 2 or 3 days in a row. And after a couple of nights of not sleeping for more than an hour or hour and a half in the evening, just so that I could get these things on this list done, I was exhausted beyond measure, unable to think and to analyze and to predict the way that I normally would. And all I could do was just function, barely function. And I finally realized that, I'm not enjoying my life. I'm not enjoying this experience at all. And I decided not to complete the list. And I decided to go into this in this event that I was at, to go into the room where all the people at this meditation retreat that I was at were sitting and chanting and meditating and having a lovely experience. Meanwhile, I'm running around behind the scenes, sweating and trying to make sure everybody else is having a great experience. And so I realized that, no one else was ever going to make this happen for me but me. And so I just laid everything down. I went in and sat down in the middle of this retreat, and I had to focus very intently on singing these words that were being chanted. They were Sanskrit words, and I wasn't familiar. I didn't know what they meant or how to pronounce them. I had to take long, deep breaths in a manner that was longer than I was accustomed to. And I had to let myself basically sing, which I would never let myself have done prior to that. And I had to do all of this at once. And most importantly, I was taking a stand for myself in this moment. I was taking a stand for letting myself have an experience internally that I never let myself have in my life. I was allowing myself space and time in an environment that was loving and tender and graceful and warm, and I was allowing myself to participate in it in a way that I simply hadn't allowed myself to be accustomed to. I was always the one trying to do the right thing, do good, help others, and so on. So in the midst of that, I sat down, started focusing on these words, and within just a very few rounds of this chant, I was transported into another dimension of myself. It was quite otherworldly. It was profound. It is nearly impossible to describe, but let me say that the things that I can grasp from it and share is that I could see 360 degrees around me. And I was in a light so bright, it was 10 times brighter than the brightest day in the desert I had ever seen. And I was me, but I was not in a body. I was a ray of light, and I could see beneath me, as far below me as I could see. I was suspended in midair. I could see beneath me, about the size of a marble, earth. It was that far below where I was with my consciousness. And it was more real, Debra, than anything that I can touch right here. I have a mug of water, lemon water, right in front of me. I'm touching that, and it was more tangible than that. It was multidimensional. It was sensational. And the most important thing that I will say is that I had a sensation of complete satiation, complete fulfillment and gratification and bliss. And I didn't want for anything. There was nothing to do. There was nowhere to go. There was nothing to achieve or to accomplish, because it was all there. And this, I know, is true for all of us. And I knew in that moment that this is the truth of who we are. And I don't know how long I was in that state, but when I came down out of it, I looked to the front of the room, and the teacher who had given me this list of things to do was sitting in the front of the room. Her eyes were locked in on me, and, I looked at her, and she looked at me, and I knew that she knew what had happened. And she had this look on her face like, gotcha. Like, no matter how hard you try, what's really going to happen, eventually going to happen in the course of your life, when you stop trying and you start allowing and you start having instead of wanting, and you just slide into that and let yourself wholly and fully be in that, then it happens. We unfold. We experience our magnitude. We experience our magnificence in those moments. And when we're efforting, we're actually taking ourselves further and further away from being able to experience that. So I spent the next 10 years really trying to put that together, really working on how do I bring that experience that I had in those moments into my life on a daily basis. How do I allow, rather than me trying to get back to that, which I can do regularly now, but rather than trying to go there, I was very interested in bringing that experience here, bringing it into the surface of my life and allowing it to infiltrate into how I interpret every business deal, how I interpret every conversation with my beloveds, how I see our action in the world. How do I interpret it through this filter that was unveiled for me in those moments that day? And so this is a long answer to your question, but I think that it will prove to be very relevant throughout our conversation, because it ultimately is at the very foundation of each and every one of us. We are made of this eternal light that is profoundly present all the time. And this life process is really just about awakening to that. If we can find that stillness, that is the true achievement. And what happens when we find the stillness is that we're actually able to accomplish more by doing less, by fretting less, by thinking less, by strategizing less, and just being able to get in touch with this core true resonance within us that is there for us, and allow that to speak and allow that to choose and allow that to be the one that decides. It is that small, still voice in each of us. It is that knowingness in the back of your mind. It's that gut feeling, all of that. All of those are impulses that are reflecting this same state of being that I experienced full on. Those are all other interpretations, other language versions of the same thing. And each and every one of us experience that intermittently, sometimes periodically, sometimes semi-regularly. And I'm really interested in showing people how to access that consistently, regularly, continuously, and constantly, and to create a life for themselves, a life experience for themselves that is a true reflection of that. Because inside of that, there is a life that is waiting to unfold, that is meant to be for each one of us. And if we're experiencing stress, it's quite possible that we're just not in touch with, we haven't connected those dots between the mind and the heart and the core and that inner essence that is the truth of who we are. And as we do connect those dots more succinctly, more regularly, more consistently, and create a practice for ourselves to do that, then it allows that small, still voice to come pouring forward in a very graceful and powerful way that really generates the life experience that everyone is seeking, some have found, and all of us are ultimately destined for. So there's a long answer. They won't all be that long.
Well, that is an absolutely gorgeous answer. When you were telling about your experience, I was going there with you and with the 360 degrees of light and looking down on the earth. Not that I had the experience, but you explained it so beautifully and so vividly that I actually started feeling it in my physiology. And what is so beautiful about this, Sue, is that you are talking about exactly what we want. I mean, we want to live our life knowing that there's nowhere to go, that there's nothing to achieve, to stop efforting and just surrender and allowing that still small voice to come pouring forward. That's what we all want. And especially now at this time in creation, there are tens of thousands of us who are seeking that. So I would just love for you to take it away and start guiding us on at least the initial steps to getting rid of the blockages or whatever is keeping us from experiencing that.
You know, for the most part, I feel that we're oriented in an externalized world, and that poses tremendous challenge for us. We're oriented to please others, to live from the outside stimulus, to do what I'm supposed to do to fit in and to do the right thing and so on. We get graded, we judge, from the beginning, we're in a state of comparison and therefore competitiveness. And all of that is just externalization of power, externalization of our focal point. Our focal point is outside of the self. And then we're trying to bring the self along to improve it to the point where it meets the standards of this outer world. And in reality, the entire outer world is doing the same thing. And so it's all actually kind of a big bluff. And if we could just call the bluff and say, you know what, I'm going to just do this my way and see how it goes. If we could muster the courage to do that, then what we would see is that we would actually generate a path and a life that unfolds in a way that is directly suited to this very place that I was describing. You know, when I was in that state, every time I took a deep breath in, the horizon would rise and fall like this beautiful pink blanket, like there was bright, brilliant light above it and bright light below it, but the horizon would rise and on the inhale, and it would fall gracefully on the exhale, similar to a stingray. You know, a stingray in the ocean, that fish that, that has these wings, these fins out the side that just roll up and down so gracefully when they swim through the water. And that's exactly how this horizon was moving. But the feeling, the presence there was undeniably completely saturated in love. And I knew that what was happening with each breath that I took was that I was breathing love through this channel of light that I am to the planet below me. This light was coming in from overhead. It was rushing through this ray of light, which would have been my body, and it was rushing down into the earth. Now, that might sound a little out there and esoteric and woo for some people. And you know what? It was way out there and woo for me at the time. I was a doctor. I was trying to do the doctor thing, the scientifically reproducible thing in my clinic every day, basing everything as much as I possibly could on scientific research and that which could be proven and tangible and reproduced, and so on and so on and so on. So to have an experience like this just kind of blew my doors off. It just stymied me. I didn't know what to make of it. And this, I know, is applicable to all of us, because what I came out of that realizing is the things that I thought are true are actually an illusion. And the things that I thought dreams are made of are actually based in more truth than we know in this dimension as human beings. But there is a greater part of us that is very present in the rest of the story, very present in other dimensions, and very present in this energetic reality. So beautifully stated in quantum science, everything is energy. Now, the world of spirit would say that everything is spirit. And both are true. So I have the great fortune of blending those two disciplines and realizing that when we say that everything is energy, we have to become masterful at learning how to manage that energy. For us to master our life experience, we have to master energy flow. Because what was happening for me in that moment was I was in touch with the energetic essence of me more so than just the dense version of that energy, which we call skin and bones, flesh and tissue and physical body stuff. But all of us have that. We all have a variety of levels of energy that we work with every day. We have emotions, those are energies. We have thoughts, those are different kinds of energies. We have kinetic energy, enough energy to get through your day or not. That's another kind of energy. We have our physical health and well-being, that's another representation of how energy is moving through our bodies and through our lives. And so the whole key ultimately has to be this. We have to learn how to master energy flow, period. And when we have upsets or injuries or grievances, when we have limiting beliefs, when we have grudges, all of these types of things stop energy flow. They try to take things back to the way they used to be or stop things in their tracks right now because we're afraid of what they're going to become. We hesitate, we hedge, we procrastinate, and we do all of these things for purposes of protecting ourselves. But what we are protecting is that externalized individual that we developed as, and the truth of the matter is that's not at all who we really are. We developed this protective personality, and we go through our lives trying to continue to protect the protective personality, the ego, and all of it creates a whole lot of pain. So in order to get underneath the pain, we have to get underneath this protective shell that we've created. And in order to do that, we have to learn how to move energies without having to involve the protective personality ego. And one of the ways that I have found to do that is a collection of principles and practices that I call now the energy codes, because they are a codified way of being that will allow us to access that inner self, that small, still voice, that core truth of reality that is that ever-present, strong being that knew you were coming into this life to have the experiences that you're having, the one that chose to come in, the one that's here behind the scenes, riding it out and having the experience that it chose to have. Sometimes it feels like we never would have chosen what we're having when we're having some of our uncomfortable experiences in life. But what I know, Debra, is that we did choose on the highest level of our being. We did choose, and we know what we're doing. And it's just a matter of getting that protective personality to settle down into that and to calm and to breathe and to come into the core. And what I have found is that there are some things that we can do that will allow us to do that consistently, gracefully, and a lot more easily than one would think. And it involves simple things like using the body to anchor our consciousness more directly than we ever have before. And I'm going to show us how to do some basic things in that department in our conversation today. And some simple things like using our breath to move energy instead of having to depend on our mind to change our circumstances. Now, let me just take a moment and explain something about that. We think we have to change our circumstances by striking up new agreements with people or taking different actions in the outer world and so on, so that we will have a different outcome, which will give us a different experience on the inside. And if we would stop and look at that for a minute and realize that we could go straight to changing the experience on the inside, and it might cut out a lot of legwork in trying to convince other people or trying to come up with a better explanation or trying to teach people or trying to change our jobs or change our marriages or change our children, and all of the things that we think we have to do to have more peace and harmony. So what I have found is that when people do go through all that legwork and they do get the results, there's a different experience that happens inside the body. And I noticed this with my patients, and it got my attention. So if we were having a changed experience inside the body as a result of something from the outside world, if we only ever depend upon the outside world to change before we allow ourselves to have a shifted internal experience, we again are eliciting fear in our lives. What if they don't change? What if they don't agree? What if the circumstances don't get better? What if I get the divorce and my life still isn't any happier? What if I get married and my life still isn't any happier? You know, all of the things that we have come to know as stimulus responses in our lives, they actually elicit a good deal of fear if we're not careful. So we have to become so capable of managing our internal environment, regardless of our external circumstances, that we are comfortable knowing that I can be okay no matter what. I know how to create okayness inside of me, and my okayness actually pours out of me into my surrounding environment. And when I do that, when that happens, people start to treat me differently. Bosses start to respect me more. Employees start to respect me more. Spouses start to have a different understanding. I have a tendency to worry less or to trust more. All kinds of things begin to happen. This has happened with dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of people that I've worked with over the years, so much so that I have so little doubt left inside of me about it that it's difficult to even consider not doing some of the practices that I'm going to share with you today and that I share with people in the support materials that I create and generate all the time. I know that it works. It's a system that works. It can't not, because we're destined and we're supposed to live in a masterful way. We're here to do just that. So really, nature is intending for this to happen, for us to learn how to anchor our awareness inside the body more deeply and more fully than ever before, so that we can start to shift how energy flows through our lives, through our life experience. And we can use the body to begin that process. Then everything just ripples out in a circumference that gets bigger and bigger and bigger in a sphere of influence or a sphere of engagement that we have in life. But first things first, it has to be grounded and anchored and integrated on the inside before it can ever have a sustainable impact on the outside world. So there are some simple practices that I'd love to share if we have a few minutes, just to have everyone engaged so that while we're having the rest of our conversation, we can actually be practicing as we go. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay. One of the things is an old practice that I wanted to share with everyone because it's so simple and it's something that people can do all the time that doesn't require sitting and closing your eyes and being separately from being engaged in life and being engaged in the world. And you can do it all the time, and it has a profound impact on our ability to shape-shift our lives. It has a profound ability to anchor us and center us and ground us in any stressful situation, and more importantly, because ultimately we won't be looking at situations as stressful. We will be seeing them as food for our project, food for what we're here to be metabolizing, and that is turning it all inside out and really witnessing our own power in life. So it's a process that's called Mula bandha, and if anyone is familiar with yoga, you may have heard this in a yoga class, Mula bandha, and it's Mula BAND, like band, and then HA, Mula bandha. It means root lock. It means locking the energies at the root of your being and anchoring them. So it's kind of like if you were to imagine your consciousness is kind of like a hot air balloon, and it wants to lift up, okay? And we are coming into this physical body in our lives for one reason, and that's to bring that high frequency, high consciousness being that we really are all the way here to the physical dimension, which is the cutting edge of consciousness, the frontier for humanity is that. So we want to bring all of us here into this life and engage it fully. And so if you could picture, this hot air balloon has to be tethered, has to be anchored to something. So we do that at the very root of the spine of the body. Now, this practice, I've engaged it with patients for years, and I've engaged it with participants in my workshops for years, and more so in recent years than ever, and I'm getting tremendous results simply by doing this thing alone. And let me describe how to do it, and then we'll talk a little bit more about why it's important. Basically, if you were to contract the muscles, it's kind of like a Kegel exercise, or if you were to contract the muscles around the bladder, the base of the pelvic bowl, even the sphincter muscles, just contract in your body all the way down the spine to the tip of the spine in the base of the pelvic bowl. Just contract and squeeze those muscles like with everything you've got right now. Just squeeze them tight, and now relax that by 1/2, and then relax that again by 1/2. Okay? So it's just a little bit of contraction in there. Now, ultimately, the more we would get into other techniques, there are fine-tuning all kinds of things, many, many layers within that we can get and have some very specific impact on how to run energy through your body in a way that keeps you masterfully present and powerfully able to communicate what you are intending to communicate without rushing into an emotional state or getting set off center, what we would have formerly called knocked off guard. But ultimately for you, I don't want you to ever have to be on guard in the first place. Where people say, knock me off my game, I don't want you to have to play a game. I want you to just be your authentic, true self, unguarded, present, and free. So this is one of the ways that you're going to get there. So by implementing this, Mula bandha, by contracting this musculature deep at the root of the spine, it automatically tethers or anchors this high-frequency energy that wants to elevate us up into our head, because we spend so much time thinking, and even up and out of the body, above the head. So often we do. Oftentimes meditators have a difficult time staying in the body, and oftentimes people that are constantly in a state of affirmations, planning, goaling, all these kinds of thoughts that we're running through our mind, even though they're high-frequency thoughts of possibility, they're all generated from our thinking mind. And it pulls all of the energy in the body up into the head, which takes the energy out of the body. And when you're out of your body, you're not in your power. No matter how smart you are, no matter how educated, no matter how quick-witted you are, and how keenly acclimated to thriving in this world you become, you will never be in your grounded whole state if you're not in your body at the same time. In addition to that, your health will suffer tremendously as you age, much more rapidly than it would be if you learn how to keep the energy down in the body at the same time. So there is in addition to that, to bring the attention to, at this point, that would be very helpful, very beneficial for us to add on to this, that when we take a breath, we need to learn how to breathe low in the belly, not in the upper chest. That will also pull the energy down into the body and anchor it and anchor it and anchor it down in the body where we have to stay in order to access our wisdom. You see, our intellect is stored in the intellectual mind, in the mind field, which is energy field, not just limited to the brain. It is in the quantum field around the whole body, which is, what I teach in my workshops and talk about, getting masterful about managing this entire quantum field. One of the things that we have to do for sure is to anchor it deep in the physical body if we want to utilize any of the practices that we'll engage in this conversation or any other conversation that someone would engage in, or any other practices that we engage in life mastery. So breathing in the belly, not in the upper chest. The lower lobes of the lungs innervate tremendously to the part of the nervous system that calms you down. The upper lobes of the lungs innervate to the part of the nervous system that causes you to activate fight or flight if a bear comes in the room, if a bear is chasing you. And so what we want to do is activate the lower lobes of the lungs. They are also highly vascularized, so we oxygenate the blood faster by breathing into the lower lobes of the lungs, which automatically sends a message to the brain that tells it to relax and to move into creative genius instead of into fight or flight. And so we will obviously come up with better solutions in our lives, be more present for rational conversation, and to really be able to speak our heart and speak our truth if we're not perceiving ourselves as being under threat. So breathing in the belly, not in the chest, breathing in the belly. So you look in the mirror, you take a deep breath in, make sure your shoulders don't go up toward your ears at all, but that rather your belly goes out toward the sink. And then when you exhale, you pull the belly in toward the spine. So if you're standing in the bathroom, you're looking in the mirror, and you take a deep breath in and your shoulders go up, you learn how to drop them down, hold them down, and take a deep breath in from the navel down, deep in the belly. So now contract Mula bandha and take a belly breath. To do both of those at the same time is a perfect balance between trying and not trying. It's a perfect balance between doing and non-doing, achieving and nowhere to go. We mentioned earlier, there's nowhere to go, there's nothing to do, and yet we are so programmed to go and do, to improve upon, to go and do, to achieve, to go and do, to make our money, to go and do, to make it all right. And we have to acquire a balance between what I was describing in that meditative state as that ultimate state of bliss and when the rubber hits the road and we have to go out into life. We have to learn how to work with both and. So these practices are simple ways to engage both qualities of those energies at the same time. So let's contract Mula bandha deep in the pelvis. Contract those muscles with everything you've got, and then relax it by 1/2. And then relax that by 1/2, but keep some tension in there. And now breathe in your belly, but don't raise your shoulders up. Don't breathe in your upper chest, but keep those muscles of Mula bandha contracted at the same time. So we're contracting these muscles, and we're taking a big belly breath in. And then when you exhale, draw the belly back toward the spine and keep that Mula bandha engaged. Keep those muscles contracted. At first, when you're practicing with this, keep them contracted all the time. Inhale, exhale, doesn't matter. Keep them contracted. Keep them contracted. Contract them 1,000 times a day. Contract that musculature 1,000 times a day. You're driving down the road. You're on your way to work. You're worrying about some situation that you're going to have to get into when you get to work or when you get back home, conversation you're going to have, and your mind starts reeling, and you start anticipating what they're going to say and then what you're going to say, and then your mind is so frustrated because it always goes that way. And that whole thing that we do, which is a waste of energy, instead, take your energy and drop it right into the root of your spine and contract those muscles. You will not be able to have the same degree of upset when you're contracting Mula bandha that you can get to when you're not contracting Mula bandha. Guaranteed. It will be an entirely different experience. The thought process will shift. Different thoughts will come into your mind because you will become grounded and anchored, and it runs everything through an entirely different filter under those circumstances. Okay? There's one more thing I want to add to that, if we have time to do that, that will allow this to be an even more powerful way to remove blockages in energy that happen somewhere up and down through the course of the spine throughout the course of our lives, due to us not having high self-esteem, not being in our hearts, not trusting our guts, not being in our wisdom, not feeling like we belong, not speaking our truth, not trusting our visionary capacity, and so on. So I just mentioned those areas because those are the areas people get stuck on, and it has to do with the energy system, the chakra system, and how we use it or not. And if we have time for just a little add-on, I'd love to add that to what we're doing so that people realize the experience of, wow, if I do this, I can get into my power more easily. Wow, if I do this breath work in this way with Mula bandha, I can more easily speak my truth without having to worry about, can I be compassionate enough? Can I be loving? Can I be kind at the same time that I need to say what I need to say? So it's highly valuable. And if we have a moment, I'd love to toss it into the mix. Okay. All right. So if everyone contract that Mula bandha with everything you've got, contract it. Now relax it by 1/2, and relax it by 1/2. Okay. Now the next time we take a deep breath in, now keep that amount of musculature contracted the whole time I'm talking for this next little thing. You keep it contracted, just that small degree. Now, if you also then raise your hand like you're raising your hand in class, just raise your hand up and then look up at your hand. Okay. And now snap your fingers and see where your fingers are snapping in space. Okay. You see that? Now look straight ahead. Don't look up at your hand anymore, but snap your fingers again and memorize where that is in space up above your head. Now, there happens to be an energy center, just like the chakras are, up and down through the physical body. There are chakras up above and below the physical body as well. And we can get into all kinds of fun things at some point in the future about how to manage those, how to work with this energy. Because when you draw from energy from that place and draw it down through your body, just make it up like you have a tube that goes down through the top of your head, down through the center of your brain, to the center of your throat, to the center of the heart, chest, to the center of the belly, to the center of the spine where you're contracting those muscles, and drop straight down into the earth. Just imagine that there's a tube of energy that runs like that. And there is, actually. The torus energy is like a big fat donut, and you're standing in the donut hole. And there's a bunch of donuts stacked on top of each other, and you're standing in the donut hole, okay? So that is a channel of energy that runs right down through your physical body, same. All right? So from that place that you snapped your fingers up above your head, you're going to take a breath from there. You're going to imagine that you're breathing it through a blowhole in your head like you were a whale. Okay, you got a blowhole, that soft spot, that aperture at the crown chakra at the top of your head. Just imagine that it's open, like a camera lens opening up, and you're breathing and drawing the breath down this channel, down this tube, all the way to the belly, not just to your chest, all the way to the belly, and you're contracting the Mula bandha. Okay, so contract Mula bandha, squeeze it with everything you've got right now. Now relax it by 1/2. Now you're going to take a deep breath in, but not until you get your attention fixed up above your head where your fingers were snapping. So take all of your concentration up there, and then from that place, take a breath from above there down through the body into the belly, and it drops in slower than the breath. Okay, the energy follows the breath. And now exhale down through those contracted muscles, down through the earth, right down into the earth. Okay, right down through the body, down into the earth. Exhale. Now your next inhale is going to be from deep in the earth. Draw it up through those contracted Mula bandha muscles into the belly. And then exhale, take it straight up through the chest, up through the throat, the third eye, up through the crown, up and out the top of the head. Take a deep breath in from above the head, same spot, finger snapping spot, down into the belly, and then exhale down into the earth. The next inhale comes up from the earth, contract Mula bandha, breathe up through those constricted muscles, expanding the belly, and exhale straight out to the top of the head. So in doing that, you're beginning to open a channel. The channel is there. It's always functioning. What you're doing is you're opening your awareness to the channel of energy that is residing there constantly. The constant, steady you is there, and the more you practice that, the more in touch with it you will become. What happens is we begin to pierce the veils between root of the spine and the belly and the heart and the throat and your visionary capacity in your mind, and up in the head, and then up and out above. Just imagine it that you're creating a bridge between the heaven and earth right through this body that you are, because that's exactly what you're doing. That is what I experienced that day. And so what we're doing right now is just kind of setting you up to start to run those energies through your body consciously so that you can start to access a greater sense of power. And people tell me all the time that, not just this technique, but all of the things that I teach, and this isn't even getting into the energy codes, but it's setting you up so that the materials that are available to you and the support materials that I bring along will make more sense, that you'll get more benefit out of them, and that they'll begin to work for you instantly, and that they will continue to work for you in a sustainable way because you're staying in your body with the information that you're receiving. I talk fast and I bring a lot of information into a conversation, but it's because I know you can handle it. It's because I'm speaking to the real you, not the personality you that thinks that you're inadequate or thinks that there's something insufficient in your life or that you need more of this or more of that. I'm cutting straight through that, and I'm getting straight to the part of you that knows what I know. And when we talk there, what happens is we bring it to life. We light it up. When you do that with this practice that I'm sharing with you, it will bring it to life all the faster. And then when you start to add on the techniques of the energy codes that are available to you in the support materials that I bring with me in this conversation today, then what begins to happen is it unfolds rapidly. It starts to unfold in a way that makes so much sense. You start to learn ways to remove the conclusions and the premises that you have concluded for yourself based upon past experiences that I assure you are limiting your experience in your present and in your future. And that doesn't have to happen. We can dissolve those things, and there are plenty of techniques available to you to do that, which I will share with you before we're finished today. But I wanted to make sure that you have this today. In the event that I never get to talk to you again, that I know that I left you with something that will change your life. That in and of itself can and will, if you will do this on a regular basis. If you will take what is estimated as a couple of hundred breaths this way in the period of just a couple of days, what I know is that you will start to feel different. In 3 days' time, you can change your entire disposition if you make this your preoccupation for the next 3 days. If you do Mula bandha, contract it with everything you've got, and then relax it by 1/2, and then relax that by 1/2, and then breathe in your belly, and then take a deep breath up and down through this central channel. You're activating what is called the Sushumna, you're activating the spinal cord, and you're activating the central nervous system overall in a way that elicits a message that says, I'm not only okay, I'm actually in charge of this life experience. I knew what I was doing when I chose to come in. I know what I'm doing underneath it all right now. And when we begin to implement the energy codes, it allows us to get underneath the story of our lives, the dramas and traumas, and get to this raw energy that we have to learn to master. We have to learn to work with it if we really want to get there faster. If we want to be able to manage our internal environment without having to depend on the external environment to tell us that it's okay to feel okay, then we have to begin with first things first. So Mula bandha, belly breathing, central channel connection, eliciting a different response from the nervous system, makes us available for many, many new practices to come into our life that will truly make a difference for us instead of just being a flash in the pan kind of sensational experience. Okay? So how's that?
Well, I have to say, if I do that for 3 days, which I'm committing to right now, I can't even imagine how I'm going to feel, because the way I feel right now is more alive, more centered than I felt in a long time, just from those few moments of doing this practice.
Yes, it cannot not have that kind of an impact. And there are so many more things that we can add on to that. There are body positions that we can put the body in that synchronize various areas of the brain simultaneously. Then we do this practice at the same time, and it allows a circuitry to be built that is incredibly empowering, that is not defensive and that is not protective. And I assure you that the physiology of 99% of the people that are listening, I assure you, myself included, our physiological patterns are set up based upon the attempts for protection and survival that we have made in the course of our lives. Now, I've spent the last 15 years rigorously reprogramming. And I have to tell you that my life has changed dramatically because of it. I'm no longer perfectionistically trying to do the right thing. I am free and happy to do it my way, and my way happens to be working for everyone around me. Not because it's my way or the highway, but because it's an authentic way that lives in harmony, that collaborates with others, that allows for the gifts and the talents of everyone around me to be expressed to their fullest. That is what inspires me, and that's what inspires people. And we come together and we create things that are amazing. I'm invited to speak all over the world all the time. I just got another invitation today. I get to go to Aruba just as soon as I give them the yes. And it's the government of Aruba, the prime minister of Aruba, that is inviting me to come. And the minister of education is wanting me to come in and speak to the women again. I was there last year. They want me to come back. So these kinds of things happen all the time, and it's because I'm living in the both and I know that this can happen for all of us all the time. I know that it is possible for us to be present with what comes our way and to turn it into something that works to our greatest advantage. It's meant to be. We're made as creators, and we're supposed to be creating, not defending. So by beginning this way and by implementing these body positions and these techniques that I can share with you that remove the subconscious notion that is stored back there from past experience, that I have to be safe, I have to be smart, I have to consider the worst, I have to prepare for the worst and hope for the best, and all these kind of defensive mechanisms that we have established, they need to be rewritten, and they can be. We just have to learn how to do it. So one of the things that I bring along in any time that I give a conversation like this, I give the opportunity for people to learn more, because I know that you want to know more once you start to put the pieces together like we have put together in this conversation and can continue to put together for you in continued conversation. Most importantly, bringing along techniques that allow you to make it real and tangible and to have it make a difference. For 25 years in my private practice with patients, I used a technique called bioenergetic synchronization. And it is a technique that removes subconscious interferences that got established along the way when we tried something and it didn't work out, and that got etched in our subconscious that we shouldn't even try because we look like a fool, or we get embarrassed, or we get our feelings hurt, or we spend a lot of money and it doesn't work out in our favor anyway, and so on. So then when a future opportunity comes along, we have a tendency not to want to participate because we have these past experiences that didn't add up so well for us. Or it might be we don't want to try to love again because we got so devastatingly hurt from some past experience with love when we were trying our best. We might have been 4 years old and trying to express our love in some way, and we got shut down for it. And so from then on, we weren't allowing ourselves to be that exposed and be that vulnerable, and ultimately that translates to not being free. So we have to learn that our vulnerability is our freedom, but there's tremendous power in our vulnerability if we're anchored in our body and integrated. And we just need to learn how to connect those dots, and that's what I do in the support materials that I offer. I offer up meditations that guide you through the experience itself. I offer up techniques that will walk you through on a DVD that will show you exactly, or it's a digital version of a DVD that will show you exactly how to do some muscle testing to find out what the real reason that you're holding yourself back is. It could be boiled down to 6 basic things, and one of those 6 is in your way. So we just need to get to that instead of the story and getting caught up in what we think our problem is. If people's issues were what they thought they were, they wouldn't have issues because they would have resolved it already. The problem is the conscious mind can't always access what the real deal is, what the real issue is, what the real hitch is. So this technique that I use in this video that you will be watching to teach yourself how to access what the real reason for my withhold is, or the real reason for my upset is, or the real reason for my tendency to procrastinate, or my inability to focus with clarity and consistency is. When you're learning how to do that, know that it's based upon a technique that I've been doing with patients for 25 years, and that we've been teaching hundreds of other doctors around the world in 35 years. That is a technique that they've been using on their patients. So it's all clinically completely proven, reproven and reproven, and it isn't just something that was put together in an attempt to try to learn how to teach people over the phone how to do something. I'm simply distilling down for you something that I know works. It is the healthcare that I grew up with. It is the reprogramming of the nervous system that I have known all my life. And it is created now in a pattern that you can do it for yourself. I always wanted people to be able to do for themselves what I was doing for them. And now I have the great blessing of being able to share that with people after having developed the self-administered version of this technique that I have. So I look forward to sharing that with you.
So, and that way you can show them specifically what's included in this offer, because it's really, really a fabulous offer that you put together. And people can follow along. You can click on the special offer button that's right there on your webpage. So, Sue, why don't you just go through specifically what's included in the offer?
Sure. I'm not sure which order it shows up on your page, but everything that I'm going to share is on the page. So somewhere on there, and it's probably first, is a digital download of a DVD called Yes, I Am. And it is, what I do in that is I describe for you the energy layers of your whole self, your whole being, all of the different kinds of energy that you're made of, and how you can start to manage those energies differently. And I give you homework assignments, and I draw some things out and show you how it works, give you some things to contemplate throughout the day, some practices to do, and so on. So it's a little home study process there in that whole project called Yes, I Am. There is also a digital download video of something called Body Awake One, which is a technique that you will do that removes subconscious interferences, subconscious blockages that you have put in place over the years unknowingly. And so because they were put there unknowingly, you don't necessarily know what they are until you utilize this technique to reveal to you the nature of them. So I said that all of the problems, all of the issues, all of the withholds could actually be boiled down into one of six. And so this will teach you how to get down to your one. And your one will change from time to time. And so you just go back and re-implement the technique and work with it. And it is amazing what you can uncover, what you can unfold. You can use that technique when you're planning your goals or your dreams or your visions for your life to remove subconscious interferences that would keep you from manifesting those goals and dreams and visions. It is every bit as important as clearing up the old gunk from the past, the old stuff from your past. You want to clear it up so that it doesn't interfere with any new circuitry you're trying to build in your life to create the life that you'd love to have. So we want to make sure when we write our dreams and we write our goals and we lay it out for ourselves that there's nothing at the subconscious level that would ever keep us from achieving it. And that is actually what happens more often than not. People set goals and based on their dreams and their desires, and they don't happen because the subconscious thinks it has it equated with something dangerous. For instance, if you ever were setting out to do something when you were younger and you tried to do it and it didn't turn out the way that you thought it would, your subconscious was taking notes. It was recording the fact that didn't work out so well, and it basically is trying to protect you. So it says, you know what, I will never let you be that hurt again. So I'm going to keep you from even going there because that's a surefire guarantee that you will never be hurt again. So even if your conscious mind decides to go for it and to give it a try anyway, your subconscious is what's running your life. Your subconscious is what is in charge. It's in charge of your health. It's in charge of keeping your heart beating. It's in charge of keeping your body chemistry where it's in a safe zone. It's in charge of the level of money that you have in your bank account right now. It is in charge of the quality of your relationships. It is all a reflection of what you believe you deserve at a subconscious level. So if that's not really measuring up the way you would like it to, let's take it on. Let's get that cleared up because it is simply feedback. That's all it is. It's not a measurement of who you actually are. It's just feedback to who you believe that you are at a subconscious level. So best release and this technique will allow you to access what it is that is keeping me from being aware of the truth of who I am and pierce through that veil and get it moved into a new circuitry so that you can have what it is that you say you want. You can actually want it at the deep cellular subconscious level. So that alone is the reason to get this package, because it will teach you not only how to clear up old stuff and how to clear a pathway for your new visions and goals and dreams in your life, but it addresses physical ailments and issues. I have had all kinds of people using this for all kinds of circumstances, removing headache patterns, back pain patterns, asthmas, allergies, and so on. So obviously there are other issues involved, oftentimes with allergies and asthmas and physical issues, but I can cover those too for you. But this component is the reason that people who eat right and do the things that they're supposed to do, and they exercise and they stretch and they set their goals and they say their affirmations and they do all these things, but they're not accomplishing the outcome that they want, it is because of subconscious interference. So this factor has to be included in your approach. It has to be included in your practice if you're truly interested in opening up to the truth of who you are. Okay, so there's more to the package. Let me see what else is there. Let me think. Okay, Fear into Fire is the equivalent of 4 CDs of information. Okay, so there are that many downloads in the different conversations and bits of information in this CD set, Fear into Fire. So again, it's digital, just a couple of clicks and you have it, and it will allow you to reframe these things that you call fears, and it tells you what fears really are in the role of your own awakening and how they can support you finding your passion and getting in touch with the real you. It's really just the real you undercover, and it's a matter of flipping over the stone and seeing it for what it really is. So we totally blow away this whole idea of hiding behind your fears or running from your fears. You're going to run to them when I get done with you, okay? So it's fuel for the fire. Fear into Fire is turning your fears into the passion that your life is wanting and in turning it into having. And the other thing in the package is a meditation. 2 different short meditations. They're less than 20 minutes each, and I did it that way on purpose. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. I'm glad that it turned out the way that it did. It was actually an inspired project. I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning one morning, just boom, sat up in bed, and was like, oh my God, I have to make a recording. And I had never done anything like that before. And so this was one of the first products that I made after that experience that I shared with you at the beginning of our conversation today. I had a patient that was a musician, and I knew he had a recording studio in his home. And so I called him. I waited until 7:30, and I called him, and I said, Jay, I've got to come over and make a recording. And he said, okay. And so I got there. He had it set up already. I sat down. We made the recording without rehearsals, without script, without anything. We did these recordings. They were completely inspired, and they just came pouring through. And we put some music to it, and then we added some tones in behind it that open the body in certain ways at certain times, that stimulate the nervous system specifically in a pattern that supports what the process is of intention there. And it is to get you up in the morning in this frame of mind that is referencing the truth of who you are. And then there's another one at the end of the day for you to revamp and rework how your day went, and to see it for how it was serving in a way differently than how you thought. And most importantly, it takes you into your body. It's a meditation that takes you into your body, not out of your body. And the significance there, again, is that in your body is where you're in your power. In your body is when you're in your power. And so we have to be a high level of high frequency consciousness, and we have to be in the body with that. So the both and is what this support package is all about. It's about getting rid of the old stuff, creating some patterns for the new direction that you would love to have unfold in your life. And it is about healing up the dissonant energies that have been expressing as ill health or anything else in your life, and moving you into a high vibrational frequency, because everything is energy. Everything is energy. You are energy. And it is a matter of you becoming masterful at managing how the energy runs through your body. Because when you do that, you will masterfully manage how the energy runs through your life, which translates as you end up getting what you want. You end up getting what you need. You end up having more than you knew was possible, because you're in alignment with something that is the truth of who you are and what was intended to be for you. So I could go on and on about it, but I want to stop there and see what else we need.
I have to say, you had me with getting rid of the subconscious interference, because when you describe how so many of us, we eat right, we exercise, we do our meditations, we do our affirmations, and yet the manifestations aren't taking place. There have been, and I know your work, and this is so phenomenal. It has to be subconscious interference, and that's what is going to be eliminated besides everything else. It's just, it's really phenomenal. I know everybody must be absolutely as excited as I am.
If you haven't done it yet, just click on the special offer button on this page to see for yourself what an amazing package this is. You will be so glad you did.
And I was just wondering if you could share with us some of the results that you have seen, like specific individuals that have had turnarounds in their lives from applying what you teach.
Well, there's so many. You know, what popped into my mind when you just said that is I just have this memory of one of the last courses that I taught last year was in Denver, and a woman stood up and said that she wanted to thank me and thank this work. She had heard one of these interviews and she got the package and she listened to the materials, and she had not met me yet, but she was now at a live event, which I teach all over the country and out of the country as well. But so she was standing and she said, you know, I have to tell you that after doing this Mula bandha and the central channel breathing and being in my heart more because I'm in my body, I came to a great sense of clarity. To tell you everything that she did in 3 months' time, it sounds unbelievable. But she actually filed for a divorce after 35 years. This is something that she was wanting to do for a long, long time and didn't have the courage to do it, didn't have the wherewithal to even imagine herself being able to be okay in that. She quit her job, which she had wanted to do for almost as long, and she moved, three of which are three huge things. She moved out of state, three huge things to do. And she was standing there in tears thanking me for her strength, and she thought she was thanking me, but she was really thanking herself, right? And she was thanking this work for having the clarity and the integration and the strength to finally, and I'm guessing she was probably early 60s. I'm guessing early 60s, late 50s. She was in tears, so grateful for stepping into the first version of her life that felt like hers. She had married because she thought she was supposed to, and she had the job that she was doing because she had been told that she needed to do something like that because it was going to be a breadwinner in her life and, you know, be a sure thing instead of pursuing the career that she really wanted to do. And she felt like now she really could have the life that she wanted. There was also a pain pattern involved, and I can't in this moment remember that, but it just leapt into my mind when you said that, this woman's face, just how she had such sincerity and clarity all at the same time. You know, sometimes when we're in deep pain, we have a deep level of sincerity, but she had that same level of sincerity, but she was so crystal clear. And, you know, the tears in her eyes weren't tears of pain. There were tears of celebration, really, of just precious gratitude that she got to live the life that she was, you know, meant to have. And I know that feeling. I've been there. You know, I was doing things in a way that was extremely painful. It was extremely productive, but it was extremely painful. And to find my own freedom was one thing, but to be able to share that with others and to see that result coming back from others is truly one of the most fulfilling things that I could ever imagine when we get to pay it forward. And so when you learn these techniques, you can turn around and share them with a friend, and you'll know what I'm talking about in that moment when they come back to you and say, oh my God, you know, it's truly making a tremendous, tremendous difference in my life. And so once we get to that subconscious interference, you know, all kinds of things can change. I can tell you that you know, there have been people under my care with this work that were not supposed to live, that are living 15 years later to tell about it, that there are people who weren't supposed to walk that are walking. And I'm not trying to say that, you know, if you just do this little breath work, that's what's going to happen with you. I'm talking about the depths of this work that are available to you, and this package is a way to get started to see if that's something that is in alignment for you. And that's my reason for being here. My reason for being in this conversation is to open up a doorway for you, because I had the liberty of being born into a family that was interested in this, and a father who developed healing techniques as a doctor himself. And so I'm coming to you with 50 years of experience of a gift that I want to share. And it is my hope that it's hitting you at the right time, that it feels like a yes to you, and that you can truly take that in and get to know more of who you are, because it is intended. It is your destiny. And it's my intention that it happen before the last few years or days or moments of your life, that it happened now, and that we get to live the rest of our lives in celebration rather than in wanting. So,
well, right, and I have to tell you that that I met your father. I knew your father, and he was the most sensational, one of the most sensational people I had ever met, and you are equally as sensational and brilliant, and really, from my heart to the hearts of the listeners, Dr. Sue Morter could take you where you want to go. And the package that you put together for us, I was like, okay, that's so fantastic. And then you added something else on. I am so excited. And some new things that I've never seen before. So I am really very, very grateful that you put this together for my listeners. And also, I'm so grateful for everything that you shared with us during this time and the practice that you gave us. And before we say goodbye, actually, two things. One, just in a few sentences, can you tell me what you have seen that people begin to experience like soon or immediately by applying what they learn in your program and over time? What are the most common things that you see?
Oh, so
Common
immediately people will start to feel more grounded and centered. You'll have more energy. You'll find that you don't have to think so much, that you don't have to know the story. You don't have to know the details. You can just, you'll find that you're good to just go with it. You don't need rationale. A lot of times people will say that, I'm just trusting my gut and it's whatever. I don't have to think about it so much. And so then that frees up a lot of energy for me to heal and to digest and to filter and to cleanse and to do all the other things that are supposed to be happening in my life automatically. But they get diverted when I'm grinding, my mind. When you grind the mind, you waste a bunch of energy. So the first things that people say is they feel more centered, they feel more relaxed, they feel like they climb into themselves again. They land and they have more vitality, they sleep better, they wake up more rested, and so on. I would recommend that you do this breath work the last thing, until you fall asleep. Have it be the last thing you're focusing on. It's just practicing, making sure that you're breathing all the way up and down through that central channel every inch of the way. And people report that they put themselves, if they wake up in the middle of the night, they can go right back to sleep just by doing that breath work. And so then when they wake up in the morning, they're much more rested and clear and inspired. It's another thing that I hear people say so often, and that's a byproduct of integration. It's a byproduct of that. The high frequency energy of our whole consciousness coming into the body gives a feeling of fulfillment, and that allows the mind to go to inspired types of thoughts rather than survival types of thoughts. So on the short term, I would say those are the most common reports that I get. And in the long term, I have people that have been coming to my programs for about 8 or 9 years now, as I started teaching them about then. And we have people that are, that regularly share that their entire life experience is developing differently. That they have started to look at life completely differently. They had no idea who they were, what we really are as human beings on the surface of this planet, and what we're really capable of. And so I would say the long-term report is that they find themselves as a creator of their life experience, rather than just being a better responder, and not just strategically becoming a better reactor or a better responder, but to move out of survival altogether and to have the freedom to create the life that you choose. And that is definitely what people give me as feedback as the number one thing that they experience over the long haul, is that they had no idea the amount of power that they had. They thought power meant conflict, that they had to fight for their power. And actually power means peace, and to flow into that peace and to be the one that's willing to go there first brings out the natural leader in you. So
fabulous. We'll take it all. We'll take the long term. We'll take the short term. All right.
Okay.
One more time. livebigmedia.com/bridging. Dr. Sue Morter. Any final words before we say goodbye?
I would just say that you are a magnificent being of energy and light, and there is nothing wrong. There is nothing missing, just some gunk in the way, and we know exactly what to do to peel that away, and then to begin to refine and formulate some skills that allow you to bring yourself out. It is meant to be. It's going to happen, whether it happens in the last 5 minutes of your life, or it begins in the next 5 minutes when you click that button and start listening to some of these things. The beautiful thing is you are destined to achieve it. It's just my intention that you achieve it sooner than later. And it is my great joy to an honor for space to be held, for this conversation to take place. And I thank you all for taking the time to say yes to yourselves and to plug in and to be available to new things and to drop into this possibility. So I appreciate so much the opportunity to share that with you, and I look forward to meeting you in one form or another someday. So thank you, Miss Debra.
We're opting for the next 5 minutes and not waiting for the last 5 minutes. Yes. So thank you so much. You are phenomenal. Really, just thank you for just blessing us in this time. I feel just energized hearing your voice. That's another reason why I love the AM and the PM meditation, because just your energy is so healing and energizing and everything good. So thank you so much.
My great joy.
And thank you to everyone for spending this time with me and with Dr. Sue Morter. And I look forward to when we are all together again. This is Debra Poneman. Have a fabulous rest of your day.